Hello my friends, welcome back to another tutorial. This week I'm going to paint something very sort of eye-catching. It's a very simple scene. It's just basically some mountains with lots of mist and fog and cloud going across in between the mountains. And then there is this one or two little peaks kind of just poking up out of the mist with very sharp jagged edges. So I'm just going to try something nice and simple like that for a change. I spotted this and I thought, yeah, I have to paint this. It's lovely. I think you will learn something from this. Nice and simple, but very, very effective and very, very eye-catching as well. So let's go and have a bit of fun with that. If you would like to follow me along, get your stuff, get everything ready, and see what you think about this. And do subscribe, okay? Because you're missing so much. Subscribe, click the notification bell. Make sure you're updated every single week with new, fresh tutorials. So thank you so much for your support. Let's go and try this and have a bit of fun. Okay everyone, let's go. There's the photograph. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? Very, very simple, but I think really, really eye-catching. And I want to try and create some nice mountains with this. Maybe using a palette knife or something like that. I think it's going to be fantastic. So, let's crack on. Let me tell you what colours I have. I have titanium white, Naples yellow, a little cadmium yellow, some alizarin crimson, some burnt umber, burnt sienna, I'm not sure if we need it, but it's there, phaylo blue, lamp black, and some magenta. Those are my colours. Nice simple palette, nice colourful palette. Okay, so I have some turpentine here with a little linseed oil in it and some tissue. Now also, I have a 16 by 12 canvas which I didn't prime. What I did was, I rubbed it down with some fine sandpaper and I gave it a coat of linseed oil. I just gave the entire canvas one coat of linseed oil with some tissue paper. Very quickly, I let that dry for a few hours. It's dried in and it gives it a beautiful glossy kind of a shiny surface to work on, and it's a great primer. The colours will float across this really nicely and perfect for blending as well. So let's go and have some fun with this. The sky. I did a quick sketch, by the way, just a rough outline, just to give me some idea where everything's going. Okay, I'm going to dampen my brush, dry it on some tissue so it's only slightly damp. I'm going to make a nice bluey grey for the sky. Okay, let's take some phaylo blue, lots of white, okay, because that phaylo blue is very, very rich and that's very thick now. It's almost just paint, so I might take a touch of thinners just with the corner of my brush, a tiny amount, just to thin it ever so slightly. Okay, and into that then I'm going to take a little black, a tiny amount of black, only a little bit, okay? It's like a bluey grey, that's what I want. A little bit at a time. Don't overdo it because it's very difficult to go back if you overdo it. So little touches at a time. And then to warm this, I'm going to take a hint of magenta. And that will just give that nice warm kind of a grey blue. You see there's a lot of pinks, kind of mauvey colours in this painting, which I really like. Let me try this now just for a moment. I think a tiny touch more black, just to dull it down just slightly. And you can see now how that linseed oil on the canvas is really helping me to pull the paint across the canvas nice and easily. It's completely dry, by the way, okay? It's a completely dry canvas with a quick coat of linseed oil on it. So I let everything dry. So it just gives it a lovely shiny kind of a surface. Now, as you come across, I'm going to start taking more white, and I'll take a little more, actually I'm going to try a little crimson, okay? The magenta may be a little bit cool for this, so I think a touch of crimson, just to warm it ever so slightly as it comes across. And take your time with this. Look, there's no rush, just take your time and pop it on there, stick it on, soften it around. I'll take a touch of turpentine just to help it flow a tiny little bit. Some more white. I might take a hint of magenta as it comes down, just to lighten it ever so slightly. The theme of this painting will be pinks and mauves. Even in the mist, you can see a kind of a pinky mist, which I really love. So I want to try and achieve that. Now I'm going to start adding a little more black and blue to the mix, okay, as it comes across. Just want to start making it that little bit more on the blue side. So I'm going to take more blue and get some crimson in there. That's a nicer colour now, it's like a nice plummy colour. And there's no trick really to painting this sky, it's just simply a very rough cloudy sky, okay? You can, if you like, take your time with this and put lots of different things in, clouds and all that kind of thing. I just want to keep it nice and simple, okay? That's the theme, nice and simple, but very dramatic. The focus really is on the mountains popping up out of the mist. So you can just create any kind of a sky that you like, really. Now, I'm just going to give my brush a quick clean. So dip it in your turpentine, soak it in turpentine, and then just run it off on your tissue. Just take it off on your tissue, most of it. I'm going to take some white, I'm going to take some crimson, and I'm going to take some Naples yellow. That'll give me a nice warm colour. I'm going to pop some of that in over here. Now it's slightly more on the pink side, this mix, okay? Slightly on the pink side, because it'll mix then lovely into the blue that we have, that bluey grey. It'll really mix lovely. If you have more yellow in this, it's going to go green. So you see, little hint of pink up there, pop it down, and we want a nice light mist down at the bottom to create a lovely silhouette on our mountains. So I'm going to go behind that. Now I'm just going to quickly wipe my brush with some tissue, take some white, and I'm going to just really lighten, and I'm dragging the blue into it, you see. So I've put on some white, right, okay, and then I went up and dragged the blue down into it. So that way it's not overpowering your sky. I'm kind of picking up little touches of each colour as I go and blending them in, you see, just like that. Go across, let's soften this in over here. So we have a lovely varied kind of a sky going on now, don't we? Let's go up here, soften some of that darker stuff in there. Go across. So let's sit back now and take a quick look at this. I'm going to darken some of that top left corner, okay? I want just slightly darker up there. I'll take some phaylo blue, some crimson, and I think a touch of black, okay? A tiny touch of black. I'm going for a nice rich dark plum kind of a colour up there. Now you need to make this really nice and dark, because when this goes onto the colour, it's going to start softening into that lighter colour immediately. So you want to make it nice and dark, okay? To make it show. Nice and dark, look at that, all the way across. We can even give it some flicks across to suggest, just to make a little suggestion of some clouds up there moving around. So maybe a bit more blue and pink. Okay, just like this, and let it flick across. Now also, I don't know if you can hear on the microphone, there is a house alarm going off a few doors down, and it's very annoying. It's constantly there in the background. I hope you can't hear it too much, and I hope it doesn't distract the video too much. But it's been going off all morning constantly, and I presume there's no one home, but it's just going off over and over again, and it's really annoying. Happens from time to time. But look, let's hope the house is okay and it's not been broken into or anything like that. But it would be nice if they could turn the alarm off, wouldn't it? Now let's go up here and just drag a couple of those straight across. I'm just really flicking the brush across, look. I'm just creating the impression of some cloud off in the distance. Nothing too dramatic, alright? Now, I'm cleaning my brush on tissue, so I'm dipping it in turpentine, rubbing it on some tissue to take off most of that colour. And I want to just add a nice grey down here, a nice kind of a grey. So let's create some clouds. I'll take some white. I'm going to take, I think, a hint of burnt umber. I'm going to take a hint of crimson. Then a tiny hint of blue, okay? Tiny hint. Now you don't want this going green. I want a very soft grey. Even just a touch of black perhaps. maybe a hint of magenta. I want to warm it. If you want to warm something, just take tiny touches of a warm colour. Okay, now let me just try this. Now you see, that's not bad. I'm going to just pop a few little clouds in, off in the distance there. You see, I'm just scrubbing the brush along in just any particular fashion, okay? Take a touch more black, and the black is really strong, so do be careful when using black, okay? Just the tiniest amount is all you really need. Let's pop a little bit up there. Maybe suggest one or two off up in the distance up there. And you could even suggest that this is some hills off in the distance as well if you wanted. Absolutely. I'm going to go into that blue there. See, I just picked up a bit of that bluey mauve colour. And I'm going to create the impression of perhaps a very distant hill off in the distance over there, okay? Very, very distant. Soften that down. We're going to have a lot of mist in this painting as well, alright? Lots and lots of mist, so we'll have fun creating some mist as well. Pop a little bit down there, perhaps just to suggest some hills in the distance as well there. Okay, now I'm going to clean my brush again. So it's just little steps, and I keep cleaning my brush in between. That's all I'm doing. I'm then going to take some white on its own, and I'm going to start popping some white, nice white cloud off there in the distance, okay? And clean your brush each time, because when you're putting white on, you're picking up the older paint, the dirtier paint. So just give your brush a quick kind of a clean as you go. There we go, soften that across. I'm going to pop some cloud in around here. Again, wipe the brush, pick up more white, and go down and create some more cloud. It's kind of a cross between cloud and mist. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to put a bit over here, coming down into that hill, you see? And creating a nice mist off in the distance. When I'm creating mist, I'm simply using the tip of my brush, and I'm going around in circles, look, and you can soften some of the mountain out. And perhaps just leave the centre area poking up into the cloud, or poking up from the cloud, I suppose. So you see, it's just simply little circles with your brush. And it really does give a lovely effect. Already we can start to see some distance, can't we? Off in the distance. Okay, we're pretty much ready for our mountains. I don't want to go overcomplicated with this sky, I really don't. I might actually just add a little touch of light, little touch of a light colour up here, and just sort of drag it across, okay? Just to suggest the light coming from the right hand side, okay? The sun is way over here on the right hand side, and it's casting a nice light across the landscape up there. That will do. Okay, that's absolutely fine. Okay, we're on to some of the mountains. I'm going to get another flat brush now, okay? A nice flat brush. I had a lovely one with me there now, and I don't know where it's gone. It's gone. Oh, I have it. Okay, a nice simple flat brush. Give that a good clean. Because I was painting a Zoom lesson yesterday with someone, and I forgot to clean one or two of my brushes, so they are a little bit on the dirty side, some of them. I have a terrible memory for cleaning things like that. I tend to walk away and leave them without cleaning. No, that's fine. I'm going to start with maybe some of the distant ones. I'm going to make a nice dark colour. I'm going to take some black, and I'm going to get, it's a nice rich black, okay, pinky purpley black. So some crimson, some black, and a hint of blue. But lots and lots of crimson, even a hint of magenta. That'll really warm it up, won't it? So we have a beautiful, like a rich dark plum kind of a blacky colour, alright? And a touch of thinners. Just a tiny, tiny, tiny touch. I'm then going to go over here and start creating those mountains off up there, okay? Just keep the edges nice and jagged. Don't go straight with a line like this. Keep them nice and jagged, up and down, okay? Now I'm going to stop. When I'm painting mountains like this with mist, I only paint the top half of the mountain and then I stop, okay? I'm going to then add some burnt umber into that, maybe with some magenta. I'm going to come over here and this lovely warm mountain. In fact, let's take a hint of sienna and maybe a hint of crimson. I want a nice warm brown, okay? I'm going to go up here and paint this one with that. And look, nice and jagged. So you can see it's just the top section that's really dark, then it brightens as it comes down. So then I give my brush a quick wipe on some tissue. I take some Naples yellow and some magenta into that with some white. Now we have a nice light pinky kind of a colour, okay? It's kind of pinky brown, isn't it? And I could probably even get away with using a larger brush for this. It's probably even a better idea to use a larger brush. Now I've taken some white and I'm going to just start lightening this as it comes down, okay? In fact, I will take a slightly larger brush. I'm going to get a larger brush, this type of a size, and I'm going to take some white, and it's a dry brush by the way, a little magenta, because that mist is a nice kind of a mauve, isn't it? It's a pinky mauve, and a hint of phaylo blue. Now if you feel that's a little bit too in your face, a bit too bright, you could take some hint of black, okay? Just a tiny touch of black. And that will start making it slightly more on the grey side. So a very light mauve. Take a look at that. Now that's not bad. We go with that for now. We can add to it. So then I go around in circles and I create this lovely mist, and I go up then slightly into the hills like this, softening it up. Now clean the brush and then pick up some more white, maybe a bit of blue. And the trick with this is not to blend it together too much, because if you keep blending and blending and blending, you're just picking up that darker colour underneath all of the time. So it becomes very difficult. Now over on this side it's much more blue, isn't it? I'm going to take phaylo blue with some white and perhaps a hint of magenta. Now that magenta is a very strong colour, isn't it? Let's pull it down a little bit with more white. In fact, we could even try crimson. That might be a nicer colour. I'm going to start at the bottom, okay, like this. And then I'm going to work myself up into the cloud, or up into the mountain, look. Work it up into the mountain. And lift off very gently when you get up towards that corner, okay? So I'm softening everything around, little circles. And I'm even softening this off into the distance, you see? Right off in there into the distance. And that's creating a nice mist. Way off up in the distance. Going right off. And it's almost going around the mountain, you see? Just like that. Nice simple way of doing a mist. Now that colour, I like that colour, so I'm going to put some of that over here. I'm going to take some white. I'll take a little crimson. And a little blue. And I'm going to pop some of that. That's a bit blue. Let's take more crimson. I'm using a really dry brush now, and there's a little bit of paint on it, okay? It's not full of paint, you see that? So I'm really pushing down hard and I'm dragging the paint around. Let's go up first into that colour. Then I'm cleaning my brush again. I'm going to pick up some white and a touch of phaylo blue. I want to really brighten that down at the bottom, okay? But it looks darker on the photograph, and I will darken it slightly as it comes down. But I'm just starting first with this lighter colour. And what I do then is I'll just go around and soften all of these colours in together, you see? Like that. Now we're still not finished this one. It's just really the start. It's really just the start of the mist. Now I've cleaned my brush again, wipe it on some tissue, and I'm going to go up and I'm going to get, let me see. You can see hints of the mounting kind of showing through, can't you? So I think I'll get my small flat brush. I'll take some blue, some crimson, little magenta, and a hint of burnt umber. So we have a lovely kind of a pinky brown, okay? And I'm simply going to just go like this, just to suggest some of the hill showing through that mist, okay? Some of that rocky hill, like this. Maybe come down here. And you see I'm doing this direction, up and down like this at an angle, to suggest the angle of the cliff coming down in that direction. And it's really just to exaggerate little pieces of the hill popping through the mist here and there. Now it's still not finished yet. Let's go back to this bigger brush. I'm then going to get a very bright mist, okay? Some white, some blue. So you see, it's just working in sections as you go, that's all. Just take your time and work in sections. Don't try and do everything all at once. I'm then going to get my lighter colour, a bit of crimson, a bit of blue and lots of white. It's a very bright colour. And I'm going to go right in like that, okay? Make it nice and bright. So now I'm making the mist more pronounced. It's almost like little clouds going across. So I don't want to soften it too much, okay? I want to keep almost keep the brush strokes, if you like. So let's mix plenty of this now. Magenta, blue and white. So I'm going to come down like this, and I'm going to cut across in front of that one like that. And it's basically a case of creating the direction, you see, going along like that. Then it goes almost up and out of the painting, doesn't it? Now I'm going to go around it very carefully like this. You see? And we'll soften all of this together then with our soft brush in a moment. Let's go in between some of this as well, look. So now you can see it's picking up some of the darker colour and it's bringing it down. So you can almost see little hints of the rocky mountain popping through, you see? So there, doesn't that look lovely? Just remember, just to keep it simple and just go layer by layer, all right? Layer by layer. Now I'm going to start darkening it as it comes down, so a bit more blue in the mix. I'll take some phaylo blue. I'll take some crimson. So those two colours, and I think that's maybe all we need. Crimson and some blue. Let's go down here and make it nice and dark, look, nice and rich. We can soften it up as we go. I might take a hint of magenta actually as well, because there's a beautiful pinky tone to the mist. I suppose where the light is coming across the landscape and catching the mist, it kind of puts a lovely pinkish hue on the mist. So just round in little circles, make it nice and misty and messy. Look, nice and messy like that. Now I'll stop there. I think we don't need to go any further than that, I don't think. I might just make a slightly pinker mist higher up. I think just around here, slightly pinky, okay? Maybe a little bit going across. So this is a nice landscape now. We can take our time with this. There's no rush. Okay, I'll stop there. The next thing I'm going to do, the final stage really, is to just simply soften very gently with a soft brush. Soften all this in. Very gently. I'm hardly touching the canvas now, okay? I want to keep the direction of the brush strokes and that kind of thing, but just soften it ever so gently. That's loads. Isn't that lovely? We can come back and add more to this later. Okay, the next thing I want to do is just soften this one in a little bit more. Okay, now I want to add more mist into this, but little bits of mist, okay? I don't want to go with big brushes. I'm going to use a small brush. I'm going to take some of this light pink and I'm simply going to go sort of in between some of the crevices, okay? Just here and there, just to create more of a solid kind of a brush stroke. Do you understand? So you can actually see the outline of the mist coming across like that. The next thing I want to do is add some lights into that and a couple of lights on this. So I'm going to take my small flat brush and let's get some nice lights across here. Take some of the blue, maybe with a little white, and some crimson. I just want to pop some lights here and there just to show the light catching on some of those cliffs way off in the distance. Now it's really so far away you probably can hardly even see any of this, but I just want to give that impression. All right, a couple of tiny brush strokes, look, just like that. It just gives some light, just a little light, that's all. And kind of allow that then to disappear down into the mist, you see? Continuing them down slightly here and there. And that's fine. Over to this side, and this is a very bright side, isn't it? So clean the brush well. I'll take some Naples yellow, burnt sienna, and a little magenta. Let's take a touch of magenta. So we have a nice warm sunlit face on this one over here, okay? You see that? Just like that, look. Just let it fizzle down and disappear. You can maybe add another one or two just here and there. It's really just to catch your eye, that's all, okay? Magenta, Naples yellow. Now, I'm going to take a small brush, maybe to take a touch of black with magenta. So I'm putting magenta into almost everything that I paint really on this, okay? Little touch of magenta. And that just gives it that nice pinky tone about the painting. Okay? Then I'm going to put a real bright colour, perhaps just some Naples yellow, just on the tip, just here and there, and drag it down, okay? Now that really catches the eye, doesn't it? Then let's just soften some of these down into the mist. So they disappear down into the mist, you see? Like that. Isn't that lovely? I'm happy with that. We have another mountain coming in. Let's do the second one over here, this kind of a big one, all right? I think we should do that. I'll take medium, kind of a flat brush, and let's mix some of that darker colour again. Phaylo blue, crimson, and a hint of black. You just take a look at that now for a moment. Okay, I think more black, more crimson. And simply, let's just paint this in. Like that, okay? Put that in. And then it immediately goes almost down into a mist, doesn't it? Let's take a little magenta, little crimson. I just want to warm it slightly. Like that, okay? Then clean your brush very quickly and go into some white. So some white, some magenta, maybe a little crimson, and some phthalo blue. And we'll have a lovely mist down here. So follow the direction of the mist. Just look at the photograph. So it comes down like this, doesn't it? And then it goes across. Let's just fill all of this in down here. It also goes up behind this one, doesn't it? Just slightly. You might as well do it as it's on the brush. There we go. Then I'm going to start softening it gently up into that hill over here, okay? Up and down, create different sections of the mist, you see? So one is cutting in front of the other and so on, creating some distance in the painting. So next I'm going to take my flat brush again and start putting in some darks over here, okay? I'm going to take some black and some magenta. I think even those two colours may be enough, perhaps a hint of blue as well. And I'm simply going to just really get a nice outline on the top of this one here, okay? So now we have a nice rich outline over there. Then I can start pulling down like this, okay? I'm just creating the direction, again, the direction of that cliff face falling down in this direction, okay? I'm simply flicking my brush up and down, look, at an angle. Giving it little wiggles left and right as it comes down. Now, could try some burnt umber in there. Just a hint. And then we could go for almost a black. And pull that right down like this, because we're looking at the mountains almost straight on from the side. As it comes over here, I'm going to go with this direction, look, just to create a separate direction on the mountain. That's all I'm going to do. Next, I'm going to put in some lights. So I want a nice light grey, a nice warm grey, okay? So some white, magenta, perhaps a hint of black, and I think the tiniest hint of blue as well. And with that on your brush, let's simply create. Now you could use a palette knife for this as well if you want. I prefer to start with a brush. A brush is much more forgiving for this type of work. But if you prefer a palette knife, you can use a palette knife by all means. See, just creating little lights on the hill here and there. and then we have more as it comes across, sort of further down. And I'm just being really very rough with the brush, just kind of almost doing it on its side, just scratching the paint onto the surface, okay? And moving the brush around in different directions, just to create different types of angles and all that kind of thing on the face of the cliff. You see what I mean? Now, the next thing I want to do is go for some detail on that side. Let's get some detail in here. I'm going to just take a pointy brush. I get some black, perhaps a bit of crimson, just to warm it slightly, and even some phaylo blue. Very blacky, bluey kind of a colour. And I'm just going to start suggesting little shadows here and there, in between some of them. Now, you may not even see this, but when you stand back, it'll make a difference. I'm going to create a nice shadow in here on that one. And I'm going to create a nice shadow on the back of this one as well. So I'm going with the shadow on the left hand side of some of those lights, okay? Always the left hand side. And I'm almost kind of scraping the brush on its side as well. It's really just to get a bit of detail, that's all. And it seems to come down more on this side, doesn't it? So we'll introduce just a lot more. You see, I'm just kind of scraping the brush, letting it sort of wiggle and dance around on that canvas, okay? So now we're starting to see some hills develop, aren't we? I'm going to add some warmth into one or two of these lights here, okay? I'm going to take some magenta, some white, a little Naples yellow. Now again, it's more of a bright pink, okay? And I just want to sort of tell the viewer that the sun is catching just some of the tips of these. Okay, just like that. It's just catching some of them. And it's almost just like a bright pink, but a warm pink. Do you understand? Okay, now that'll do fine. Just soften some of them down. So the next step is, and this is where it gets fun, mist. I'm going to start introducing a nice mist into that mountain. So I go with a nice soft kind of a pinky grey, magenta, blue, and a little of this blacky colour here, okay? I'm simply going to soften that here and there. Let's even get some more blue. A little bit more blue and a little more magenta. So then I'm going to soften that up into all those crevices and stuff like that, you see? Very gently touching the canvas. Very, very gently. Next step, I'm going to soften some of those down. And I'm even softening those thick brush strokes that we put on, just a few of them. just again to show that it's disappearing down into the mist. Okay? Then I'm going to go back into a nice bright misty colour. I'm just going to go right into some white with a hint of blue, and I'm going to create a nice bright one cutting in front of that, like so. So remember, it's just layers. It's just, you know, trying to loosen up your mind and think that it's just one layer after the other, okay? One layer at a time. Try not to create all of this just in one go, because it'll just mix together and you won't be happy with the result. Just put extra layers in front of each one that you do. That's all it is. So I'm getting a nice bright colour now, look. Nice bright bluey colour. And the nice bright bluey colours will actually bring the shadows to life on the mist. Okay? Let's cut across in front of the mountain a little there, and then it disappears down. Again, I don't want to copy the photograph exactly, but just to try and get a feeling of what we're looking at. Let's take some more white, and let's just go in here with some of that. So you can see how I'm adding different layers on top of the ones already there. So I'm taking some magenta with some white this time, and I'm going to add some magenta with white in there. That will again give us a warmer kind of a mist, particularly in here. It's nice and warm. Soften that then, look, just soften it across up into the hills ever so slightly. Again, we'll soften this with our blender brush as well, okay? So, how's that looking? Now I want to darken this, and I want to darken across the bottom as well. I think it needs a bit darker, okay? I'll take some blue and some magenta. Wonderful colours, blue and magenta. Phaylo blue with magenta. It just gives you a beautiful, beautiful warm colour. And then a hint of black. Now that should give us a nice dark colour. Perhaps a bit more black. I think it's maybe a bit on the purple side. That's better now, isn't it? I'll soften it upwards very slightly, and I'll come across, right across like that. Take a hint more black. Go into the corner with the black, so it's nice and dark in the corners, isn't it? And that really pushes the middle off into the distance. It really does. Same down here, look. Little touch of black in there. Soften it up. And it's going nice and strong then along the bottom, okay? Around the little circles with your brush, that's all I'm doing. And that's already given us a beautiful misty colour, hasn't it? I'll take some magenta, pop a little magenta in here and there. And that just really complements the painting. So I'm carrying the colours throughout the painting, you see. Go up here into that mist, give that nice misty feeling. There we go. Okay. Now I think that's coming on quite nice, don't you? Let's soften some of these in. Just very quickly, look, I'm taking just the brush strokes out of that mist. Just a touch. Now isn't that lovely? I'm happy with that. Okay, let's sit back and take a quick look. Right, we have a nice mountain here. Should we do that? I think we should do that. Let's take our flat brush, our little flat brush. That's a slightly warmer colour. I'm going to go with burnt umber for that one. Plenty of burnt umber. And a little black. And a little magenta. I think the trick with painting a lot of landscapes is knowing what colours to use. But basically, just try and get the colour as close as you can. If you have to mix lots of different colours together, do. It's just a case of trying different colours. I haven't really used magenta a lot in the past, but I find now I'm using it more and more often because it's a beautiful colour. And you can really get lots of different shades of warm colours with magenta. Even just a little bit added in makes a big difference. So now let's go and do this. Comes down like that, doesn't it? Fill that in. Then we'll take more black as it comes down. Just simply a little bit more black in there. And it just basically disappears down into the mist, doesn't it? So look, let's just give it some little twists with our brush as it comes down into the mist. You see? With the tip of the brush, that's all. So we're almost following the direction of that right down, you see? Now we can go into some of this lighter misty colour and we can soften that in here. Round and round in little circles. It's that simple, honestly, just try it. I do this technique for all my misty scenes, okay? It's just a very fast, effective way of creating a nice mist on a landscape. It really is. I'm going to just soften that now just for a moment. Okay. Then I am going to add some little darks. So we have maybe a touch of black here and there, just on the top, okay? It's really just to create a nice kind of a silhouette here and there. Little touches of it as it comes down in the mist as well. You see, just like that, just to allow it to disappear. Couple of darks as it comes across over here. Then I'm going to soften this down again. So it's all different steps, you see. Just remember, one step at a time. One little step at a time. Don't try to do all of this at once. Next I'm going to take a small pointy brush and add some lights into this. I can see a very rich bright light in there. I'm going to go with some white and again some Naples yellow and a little magenta. I think that nice bright pinky colour will do just fine. With the brush on its side, simply drag it down, look. That's all, just with the brush on its side. Just remember, keep cleaning your brush. And I'm going to go up higher and then I'm going to just start using the point of the brush as it comes up to create little lights coming down into the mist. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to try for this is a palette knife. I need to get a palette knife. A small palette knife. Let's take some Naples yellow, hint of magenta, and let's start putting in some more refined lines and creating more texture. So as all of this is coming towards us, we're going to start adding more and more texture. Okay, does that make sense? As the hills come forward, more texture. Okay, now I'll stop at that. That's nice, I like that. It's just enough, I think. I'm going to go in and start adding some mist in here. I'm going to take a slightly smaller brush, a medium stubby. It's dry. I'm going to take some white, some of this bit of pink here, maybe a hint of blue. And I just want to create a slightly lighter mist here and there, coming down, you see? So now we're pushing this mountain back slightly by putting extra mist in front of that mountain, and then it's cutting across up in front of it like that, you see? I mean, it's really simple, just really take your time with this. You know, sometimes it's best not even to think about it, just grab your brush and do it. Sometimes that works actually better. You get much better effects and it's much more natural. If I sit and I think about how I'm going to do something for too long, it just becomes more and more difficult to do it, to be honest. So I rather just take my brush and go for it and not even think too much about what I'm doing and see what happens. Most of the time it works out splendid. It really does. Okay, now that's enough. Let's just soften against some of these down. Just take some of those brush strokes out of the mist, but leaving most of it in that direction, you see? There, isn't that lovely? I'm very happy now so far. I'm quite happy so far with this. Right. One thing I might do over here with this brush as well, as I have it, I might just take more of that colour, that nice pinky colour. Let me just fix my thing here. I might take some of that lovely pinky colour and just make this more refined, okay? You see the way it kind of cuts in front of that hill, lovely over there. I really like that. The way it just cuts right in front of the hill and it disappears off. Very nice. So I just want to put an extra little bit over there. I think that will do fine. You just, there we go, that's better. And you could even put some more in front, down here, turning around, creating that lovely direction. So all these different layers, you see, pushing one behind and making one go in front and so on. Just brings everything to life, doesn't it? So we have just this mountain left, and we can take our time with this, okay? There's no real rush. What are we on? 52 minutes. We got all this done in 52 minutes. Can you imagine that? Let's start doing these mountains. I'm going to start with a darker colour, okay? And start putting in all the sides with a darker colour. So let's, again, take a nice dark colour. One of these darker colours, we go with some burnt umber, some magenta, a little turpentine, just to help it move around a little bit better, and perhaps a hint of black. So we have a nice rich, warm kind of a brown colour here. And I'm simply going to just start putting in this. I'm going to leave the lights. You see all the lights? I sketched out where all my lights are on the hill. I'm just going to leave those because it just makes it much easier later on to put in my lighter colours. You see the way I'm wiggling my brush as I come down? It's simply just give the brush a little bit of a wiggle here and there. Now, we cut across in front of that nice mist, you see, creating a beautiful silhouette. Then we have a little one that just disappears down into the mist, like that. Now I'm going to take some black on its own, and I'm simply going to go like this with some black, okay? creating lovely, rich, sharp edges and ridges, okay? Go over into the mist and leave it disappear. You see? Just like that. Now, let's make a nice medium shade, a nice lighter shade of this colour. I'll take some magenta and I'll take some Naples yellow into that mix, right into that same mix, okay? Gives you a nice light pinky kind of a colour. Let's take more Naples yellow. The Naples yellow is lovely instead of using the white. It just warms the colour without making it too chalky, if you know what I mean. The white makes it very chalky. So I use Naples yellow if I want to lighten browns. It's a much nicer way of lightening colours, especially browns. Now, bring this over, leave it disappear. Then we'll get to using our palette knife in a moment. Our wonderful palette knife. And I love using the palette knife. It's a fantastic way of creating mountains and ridges and that kind of thing. Especially for something like this where you have very sharp cliff faces. So just putting this in along here. I'm simply using my brush on its side, okay? That's all I'm doing. So I'm going to clean my brush and I'm going to just start making it slightly warmer. So a bit more pink, a hint of blue. And some Naples yellow, okay? And I'm going to soften it then down into that lovely mist. And I'm not forgetting the one we have here. We have an extra little one there as well, so don't worry, we'll just pop that in with a palette knife. That'll be fine. I'm dragging this relatively dry brush up and down, you see, on its side. And we'll have lovely mist coming around all of this then very soon. A little bit of blue. Add a little bit of shade over on this side. Okay. So I have the rough outlines of these done. The next thing I'm going to do is soften all this in together here, okay? Just down at the bottom. Leave it soften away. Disappear down. I'm going to start by putting some of the darks in, okay? I'm going to get a pointy brush and I want to start putting in and refining all the edges with this. I'm going to get some black. I'm going to get some black, some blue, a hint of white, and some crimson, okay? So what I want really is like a very dark purple. Now let me get some crimson. A dark purple. I don't want to go with pure black. I think a dark purple might work better on this. So a little purple. Let's get some pink and some blue. Now I need some phthalo blue. My apologies, I hit the camera. I hit the camera with my head. Let's get some blue. A little black. Now, let's simply go along, pop that dark colour in around here, okay, just along the back end of some of these. And that dark purpley colour really kind of brings the dark side of the cliff to life, doesn't it? Now I'm going to go up. We do have ones sticking in front, bigger ones, but what the trick with this is, start at the back mountain, do that, and then you can do the front one, and you can cut in front of the back one, you see. So I'm going to show you. I think I got a palette knife. Let's try a palette knife for this. We have two different types. Which one should we use, do you think? I like to use this one. It gives some nice effects. This one is quite nice as well. Let's try this. It's always difficult to know, isn't it? We'll get some white, and we'll take a little hint of magenta and some Naples yellow. We're going for a nice bright sort of a pinky colour, okay? Now we don't want this too bright. I don't want to go very, very bright with this. So it's more of a pink, okay? Let's call it a warm pink. That's what I'd like to say. Now let's get some of this on the corner of our knives. Maybe a bit more yellow in that. Just a touch. Just a tad. Let's get some of this on corner of our knives like this. And quite simply, deep breath, let's go for it. Let's just go for it. Okay. Then we can follow this sharp ridge as it comes down. You see the way we have a sort of a dark line just behind some of them, and then drag the rest of them down like that. And they just sort of disappear down into the mist, don't they? Okay, create a nice thick one over here. Alright, we're getting there. If you think it's a little too bright, you can darken it quite easily. Alright, let's go with this one here. Let's start this one. This comes down and it kind of disappears into a mist as well, doesn't it? Drag that down. Now we do have a little hint of a yellow up on that one, don't we? So I'm going to take some Naples yellow with some magenta, a nice kind of a warm sunlit colour. I'm just going to pop some of that in up here. Grab some Naples on its own. That's really catching the sun, isn't it? Okay. Now we're not finished this by any means. We have a lot to do yet. Let's take some white, a little bit of magenta, some Naples yellow, perhaps a hidden crimson, and taking some burnt umber. What I have is a warm kind of a fawn brown, okay? Because as it comes down here, you see it starts getting darker, doesn't it? Slightly darker, slightly kind of browner. Now, I want to create some ridges along here. So some nice ridges. Like that. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is soften. Soften some of these down just towards the bottom, okay? Then it's time for a little detail. Okay, let's get some detail. I'm going to go and create some dark ridges around some of these, because it just looks kind of flat at the moment, doesn't it? So let's go and get some black. And I'm going to take some, not crimson, magenta. A little black, a little magenta. Plenty of turpentine in this. That will help the paint flow nicely. And let's go with the back one. I'm going to start and I'm going to just sort of create some darks in between some of these. You see that? Just kind of pulling some darks down. Just to create some sort of crevices here and there. And do use plenty of turpentine in this, okay? Because we're going on to very thick paint. So if you put thick paint on top of thick paint, it's just not going to kind of stay. So plenty of turpentine will help you get these nice fine lines. So don't be shy with the turpentine. Put loads and loads of it in. It's almost like a watercolour, okay? So now we're creating some of these nice dark lines. And you have to keep cleaning your brush because it keeps picking up that darker colour behind, or that, sorry, it keeps picking up that lighter colour. So just keep cleaning your brush every few seconds. I'm going to create some darkness in behind there. Let me show you. Just making a little mauve. I'm going to put a nice dark shady colour in there to create some shade on the mountain, okay? It's being cast a shadow on the mountain. Alright, just a little shadow, that's all. And we keep going with our nice watery dark colour. Down here, nice and dark. Look at that, lovely and dark down there. And a nice dark peak down there. And we'll have a lot of mist as well covering a lot of this, so don't worry, okay? We have a lot of mist going through all of this. So you can see now how it's starting to kind of break it up a little bit, isn't it? A couple of ridges down there perhaps, one or two. And it just breaks up that solid mass in the centre. It really does. So next, I'm going to move to the next one, the next side. And I'm going to do the same here. A couple of shadows down between those, you see? Little ridges. And you can allow some of them to sort of soften in, others you can leave as solid brush strokes. I'll be doing the same with some lights as well, okay? So don't worry, we'll be adding some very bright lights onto some of this as well. Okay, now I'm going to start taking some burnt umber. I want to pop some burnt umber in down here. It's just, you can see there's some nice darker shades down here, isn't there, as it comes over. Scrape it down. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Next thing I'm going to do is soften some of these in. Again, as they come down by that mist, I want to soften them in. Especially in by that shadow there, okay? I just want to soften that shadow in slightly. Okay, how are we looking? It's coming on. Not bad at all, is it? Not too bad. The next thing I'm going to do is get some bright. Start refining some of those brights. I'm going to take a small pointy brush, some white, Naples yellow, a little magenta. Start refining some of these. Get some of these nice bright colours in. Plenty of Naples yellow, I would say. Let's get it nice and bright. A nice sunlit kind of a colour. And starting over here, what I'm going to do is stop where I see the shadow. You see where the shadow starts? I'm going to stop just at the shadow to keep the shadow there. You see? So we have a lovely shadow then being cast on the mountain, don't we? Okay, I'm going to go and bring these ones up a little bit more. Particularly one or two here. Look, just closer to the edge. That's all. Looking good. Let's move to the next one. I'll take crimson and Naples yellow, I think. That will give us a nice, bright, sunny kind of a colour. And I want to just go over and turn them slightly as if they're following that cliff around, okay? Just on top. Then I'm going to start adding more solid brush strokes. As I come down. Again, you could use a palette knife for this. I just find sometimes the palette knife may be a little overpowering for the painting. Get some nice little points on some of these. Okay, let's go up here, brighten some of those. All right, there we go. Now, if you wanted to create a little more texture on the hills, you could use a little fan brush, maybe with a little white, and just dab a little texture on them. Just to suggest more of a rocky, stony kind of a surface. Just here and there, you see. I wouldn't go crazy with that now, but you could just do that. And then we have another one poking its head up there, don't we? First I want to put some mist. So before you're working on the last layer forward, always finish the one behind first. So for instance, I want to add a little more mist, okay, to this mountain before I do the one in front. So I'm just going to go look and add a little mist to that first. Then we can do the one in front, alright? So that means we're not affecting our mist. We don't have to go back over our mist then again. So I leave it at that. So now I can concentrate on this small one poking its head up here. Now I'm going to do a little black, a little brown, and maybe a little blue and some crimson. Going for a very rich dark colour here. There's mostly light on this one, I think, so I'm not going to go too dark with all of this. Let's just create a little hill there, and it just disappears down into the mist then, doesn't it? And the thing about this one is we have a lot of dark blue on this, so I'm going to start adding a little touch of dark blues here and there. Crimson and phaylo blue. With a touch of white. That's going to give me a nice dark kind of a blue. Okay. I'm also going to use some of that colour on the other mountains as well, just so it's not sticking out on its own. Do you understand? So I could put a little bit of that perhaps just in by the shaded area here. And I could pop a little bit of that perhaps in the back here, just to sort of bring the shadows areas just to life a little bit. Okay, and I could even pop some in down here as well. As it comes further down, it gets more and more blue perhaps. So a little more blue into the hill. Just a little touch here and there, look. And that really helps. Next thing I'm going to do is just soften the shade. Just a little. I'm going to soften down into the mist with these ones. Okay. Then we have the light side of that, don't we? And it's nice bright whitey kind of grey. I think just white and a little blue would even be enough on this. Perhaps a hint of magenta. And again, you can use a palette knife for this if you prefer. If you're more confident with your knife, use the palette knife. Okay? Just paint whichever way makes you comfortable. I just find using a brush like this sometimes gives a sort of a more natural feeling. Don't know why, it just does, I think. Then I'm going to take some of the light, bright colour again that we had earlier. Some of that bright, whitey kind of a yellowy colour. And pop some of that on here and there. We're almost there, folks. We're almost there. We're getting there nicely now, aren't we? This has turned out to be quite a nice tutorial, I think. I'm quite happy with this. No, just white. Plenty of white. I'll take some Naples yellow with white. Just like that. Then I'm going to take some darker colour, some black, some blue, and some crimson. I'm going to darken here and there on the backs of some of those. And that's not bad. Okay, I'm just going to soften that down. Soften that down and let's get some nice mist. Then, going right in front of that. Our mist brush, a simple worn brush, okay? Give it a clean. Let's take some white, little blue, and a little crimson. Let's get some nice bluey mist in front of that. Now I know on the picture it looks like, probably looks a little bit more pink on the picture, the mist. Let's add a little pink into that, okay? Make it a bit more pinky. And colour around in front of that, and go right across. In front of the other two as well. So you can see we're softening the mist right across. Isn't that lovely? Goes a little bit up maybe and a little bit down. Then we can take perhaps just some white and we could pop some white in there. It's basically just to create another layer of mist, that's all, okay? You could use this method now for any landscapes. Waterfalls, especially waterfalls. It's fantastic for waterfalls and that kind of thing. At the bottom of a waterfall, just pop a little bit of white in and go around in little circles like this and you'll be amazed, absolutely amazed at the effect that you'll get. Little touch more white just in here to break this up, I think. Then let's soften very gently. And my friends, we are done. There's one more thing I want to do, and that is to pop a bird somewhere. Let's pop a little bird up here somewhere. That just gives a little bit of life into the painting, that's all. Okay, now you could kind of keep going and adding some touches of colour. I want to just put in maybe one or two little bright spots. Let's get cadmium yellow and alizarin crimson. Okay. Some Naples yellow. I think just adding one or two sunlit spots here and there might help. Just to show the sun catching right up there at the top, okay? Now, I may have overdone it there slightly. Take a bit of pink, a little pink in over that. And take a little crimson again, pop a little crimson in under some of those. If you feel you've overdone it, just pop a little crimson in over the colour, okay? A little bit more Naples yellow up here. And I think that's it. Again, if you keep going at it, you see, it just becomes messy. So I would even leave it dry and start again if you want. Just put in some fresh highlights in some of them. Might be the best thing to do. So let's leave it well alone, because if you start fiddling, if I start fiddling, I'll be here all day adding little touches of colours and stuff like that. So with that, my friends, I'm going to say thank you so much. I'm going to sign it. And I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Let me see if I can zoom in, show you what we've done. There we are. A nice misty scene, some hills, lots of depth. And there we are, my friends. So there we go, my friends. Thank you so much for that. I hope you've enjoyed it, creating lovely misty mountains in a landscape. So please do subscribe if you haven't done so already. Click the button for subscribing, and if you want to support me, pop over to Patreon. Lots of extra videos there for you to check out. In-depth tutorials. Have a lovely day, my friends. God bless, and happy painting.